Welcome everybody to our first ever What's What meetup. This was a plan to happen actually in April. We were going to launch this for the first time ever. We're going to book out a training room, set up a time around lunchtime. I was going to present this as a PowerPoint, have you all ask questions, be interactive. They're designed to be very short, quick, informative, to answer live questions as we go along. However, a little bit of different circumstances, so what we're going to do is we're going to do this virtually. I think this actually may be a better option because we'll be able to reach more people. So if you weren't able to attend this meeting live in the training room because of your work schedule, now we're going to have it recorded. You can access it whenever you'd like to. So, as I had it, you're right at the end. Let's get, as you can say, you're going to have to bear with me with my technology. So to get started, thanks for watching. The major objective of this very short webinar is to identify the role of protein in the body and how much is needed daily. Okay, so yeah, there's some eggs. That kind of leads me to my first question. Everything's going to be, you're not actually be able to answer, but if you can answer out loud, and I'll kind of pretend like I'm you and answer my own questions. But I wanted to open up this presentation by asking about, what are sources of protein that most people know of or, eat daily. So, I mean, typically what we would have got for answers would be, my guess is, and these are the correct answers, eggs, fish, chicken. A lot of people would say some type of dairy sources, whether it's yogurt or milk, along with, protein shakes, which is kind of what everyone thinks when they think of gym, and that seems to be what they think of when they see us. So those are all the correct answers. There's not necessarily any wrong answer, but what we're really gonna, beat to death here is a higher quality of protein is what we want to go with. It's not sausages. It's not your incomplete, your processed foods. It's your lean foods and even some of your plant-based proteins, which is what we're going to talk about in here. So to start off with, let's let's test your knowledge. So I'll give you a few minutes. I'm sure you've already, not a few minutes, a little bit of time to answer this out loud or think about it. I'm sure you've already read this, but it's a simple true or false question. Does eating protein make you lean? Okay, so everyone's going to come from a different background as to what they already know about protein or don't know about protein. So we're just trying to educate you on this, and what do you think here? Well, it is false. Yes, eating protein itself does not make you lean. While people who use high protein diets, which are typically also going to be low carb diets, tend to lose weight, the weight loss is likely to come from eating fewer calories, not from eating more protein. Now, some people will feel a little bit fuller from eating higher protein diets, which is something I suggest for almost everyone. But this is because they make you feel fuller. It's this word that I have a difficult time saying, satiation. So that's what I always suggest to people is high protein, because it's going to push off that feeling of being hungry. So let's keep this simple. Very simple to lose weight. You want to think of a negative net caloric balance. So burning more calories than you eat. So that's what's going to make you feel or look lean, as opposed to just the intake of protein. Okay, so excessive calories from any source can be stored as a fat. So if you have too much of it, and primarily talking protein with this talk right now, too much protein can be stored as fat. Also, depending on your different activity levels and what you're going for. Strength training is one of the most important steps of building muscle. If you're trying to build muscle, then you want to think about everything there is about weight training and trying to educate yourself as much as you can on that, along with protein intake. That's how you gain simple strength. All right. So this next slide, I always talk to people about, you want to think of your body as a car. Okay, so in order to get to work every day, you need to have gas in your car to get there, right? So you want to think of what you eat as your fuel to your body. So right now, our guy's white. He has nothing in him. He's on empty. Okay, so you have three major macros, that work differently as different functions in your body, but these are all what make you go, to put it simply, and they're based on the intensity, duration of your exercise. These three macros are going to be used differently into giving your body exercise. You note that alcohol is not part of this. It does have calories. However, it can't be put into one of these sections. The reason is it has no nutritional value to it. So why protein, and what does protein do in our body? So protein is part of every single structure for our cells in our body. Okay, it supports growth and development, especially in childhood, adolescence, pregnancy, which are some of the most important stages of life. Okay, supports building and repair of cells and tissues, part of many different body processes: hormonal, enzyme productions, immunity, blood clotting, fluid balance, protein-rich foods, which supply important vitamins and minerals such as B vitamins, copper, iron, phosphorus, and zinc. What we really want to think about with why protein is maintaining a good bodily balance and function that makes you go and operate at peak performance, right? Think about the different types of gas that you can put in your car. You want to think of, putting that, if you eat sausage, you're going to be you're not putting real gas in your body. If you put in, a nice egg, then you're putting in that premium, that 93 gasoline, right? So this was kind of relate everything back to that. So we're going to test your knowledge again. So true or false, I'm giving you a 50-50 shot. Protein only comes from animal sources. Okay, you got a 50-50 shot. Say it out loud. True, false, whatever you think it is. Let's find out. So false. Protein comes from both animal sources and plant sources. Okay, we're going to talk about that a little bit more in the next slide. So let's skip on. Okay, so some nutrient-rich protein sources. They come in all different shapes, sizes, from different sources, right? So beans and peas, eggs, fish and shellfish. We're starting with some of our most complete sources at the top. Lean meats. If you look at the handout that I'll attach to this file, it's PDF, then you're going to see these on there. Lean meats. Let me go back to lean meats real quick. So what you think about with lean meats is your very high grade steak cuts or your hamburger. Those are what we're talking about with lean meats, along with your poultry, your chicken, okay, which we'll get to. Nuts and nut butters and seeds, which also have your healthy fats in them. Okay, skinless poultry. Skinless poultry contains protein, but removing the skin reduces all the unhealthy saturated fat, which you're going to get in some of that red meat. That's why you want to look for good cuts, which we'll talk about. Different tips for shopping your best protein sources. Also some grains such as quinoa. Okay, so plant-based proteins include beans, peas, lentils, nuts, nut butters, soy products, and some grains. These choices are very rich in fiber, vitamins, minerals, and they're low in saturated fat. But it's important if you are going more of a plant-based protein, that you want to pick a variety of different types of proteins because they all have different minerals and vitamins that they're made up of. So it's important that you have a variety in order for your body to meet all those essential amino acids, which is building blocks of your protein. Vegans who don't eat any animal products need more reliable sources of a vitamin B12 because that's something that they're missing out with from the all different products. So you really want to look at this slide here and try to be as diverse as possible and eat as if you can check all of these off the list, maybe not every day, but throughout a week, you should be able to put multiple checks on every single one of them. You want to stay well balanced, which is everything in life, right? You always want to stay well balanced. Okay, so this is a huge question that we get a lot is how much protein do you need a day? All right, so the major talk of this webinar is that everything in excess will be stored as fat. So this is also going to vary, from person to person, depending on exactly what your exercise goals are, going back to your exercise duration, the intensity that you're at. But we'll talk about that once again a little bit more. But they depend on your caloric needs. Okay, so women are going to need on average about 5 to 5.5 ounces per day. We're talking bare minimums though, really. And men are going to need a little bit more, about 5.5 to 6 ounces per day. So you'll see this little tip in the bottom. Did you know that 3 ounces of protein, such as meat, poultry, or fish, is about the size and thickness of a card deck? So it's not really that big. You got a lot packed into, per square punch, so to say. So how does certain situations can increase or decrease your protein needs based on, all of these that we're going to follow. So elite athletes in certain sports, they may need more protein, but most recreational athletes, they get their protein needs through just their daily their, their daily diet. They don't really need to change anything. Um, Kidney disease may change protein needs higher or lower depending on the different type of treatment they're on. Some older adults may not get enough protein due to poor appetite or difficulty preparing meals. And they also need more protein because after the age of about 55, you start to naturally lose muscle every day, regardless of what you're doing. So it's more important for them to, increase that protein intake to maintain and or increase their muscle strength and the bone mineral density, the strength of their bones as well. So vegetarians and vegans, they can fully meet their protein needs without animal products, but need a variety, which we just talked about, different plant sources to make sure that they're getting all those amino acids. Repeating myself there, but it's important to remember. A lot of people don't that are vegetarians or vegans. High protein diets are often low in carbs. They may even reduce or eliminate important nutrients like fruits or veggies or whole grains. So we just always going back to that, we want to make sure that we're well balanced. If we're going high protein, we want to make sure we're not neglecting our other macros, our healthy fats and our good carbs. Okay. And then also severe wounds and burns. So, if you're healing, you're going to need more protein intake to decrease the rest period, the recovery period that you're going through. So if you have any more specific questions, if one of these kind of singles you out, I am not a dietitian. Okay. I've taken many sports nutrition classes and have a pretty diverse background with it, but please seek out a registered dietitian. If you have further questions that I can't answer, or someone that just has a little bit more experience with it. Boom, there you go. So I spoke about this a little bit earlier with the different sources that we're going to get, and a little bit tips of nutritious protein sources. So you want to choose, your leaner cuts. So such as round or loin, those are those words you're looking for. Look for meats that are less marbled, trim away excessive fat, remove all the skin from the poultry that you may get. If you get the skinless chicken thighs, or even like drumsticks, I know people get. Try to remove the skin. That's where all your fats get trapped in. Okay, limit the processed meats. Going back to one of the virtual trainer talks I have, I like to say, if it doesn't run, fly, swim, then don't eat it, right? So hot dogs don't swim, bacon doesn't swim, sausage doesn't swim. None of them run, none of them fly. So they're not complete sources. They're completely processed. These are typically going to be loaded up with sodium and just other fillers, because they got to make sure that they stay preserved on their shelves, or whether they're canned or they're packaged. Like the bacon's going to come in those Ziploc things, they got to preserve it. So try to avoid that stuff. Enjoy fish and seafood. Maybe not everyone can have seafood. They may have allergies or whatnot, but those are your complete sources as well, with your proteins. And they also have those good fats, those omega-3s. So those are complete source that you want to go with. Okay, try to aim for about two meals a week is a good way to go with your seafood if possible. Try some low-fat yogurt, cheese. They're good sources of calcium, which goes back to increasing our bone mineral density. As we get older, our bones want to wither away, so it's making sure that they're nice and healthy, nice and strong. And certain grains like quinoa will have it as well. Try some meatless meals. There's some of those plant-based products periodically. Try beans, different soy products as a meat replacement in soups or chilies, casseroles, or tacos. You can get creative with this, just because there are so many different ways to prepare your proteins. Use healthy cooking methods. Okay, there's many different ways to cook food. Avoid breathing and frying. Avoid breathing. Avoid breathing and frying. This method adds additional calories and fat to what you're making. And then finally, nut and seed portions. it's a very good source of fiber and good fats. However, you don't want to be eating too much. I mean, a 500 calorie hamburger at McDonald's is 500 calories, just the way that 5 handfuls of pistachios is 500 calories, you know? So watch out how high that caloric intake is if you're eating excessive amount of nuts and seeds. Okay, so everything in moderation. They can add up very, very quickly. So what are you going to do next? Okay, so think small steps. Along with everything, you want to think small steps. Don't make one big step. Okay, enjoy a plant-based protein for a snack. Once again, go back to those nuts and seeds, but keep it small. Okay, everything in moderation. Opt for a protein-rich meatless meal. Try eating protein in a small, balanced meals throughout your day, okay, as opposed to having two just massive amounts of protein, 2 different meals where your body's not going to be able to digest it all. It's going to give you, GI tract issues if you're eating too much saturated fat at once. So try to space them out a little bit and try a new protein. Okay. There's so many different sources that we've covered in here, and we didn't even begin to touch them all because there's all different types of chickens, different cuts of steak, different cuts of, or different grades of hamburger, so try something different, an area of maybe the pork section that you don't typically go to. All right, so thank you for watching. I tried to keep it short and simple. Hopefully you learned a little something. Feel free to drop some questions in any form, email, comment here. Once again, stay safe, and thanks for watching.